Nuclear technology has made great advances with the introduction of small modular reactors. These could potentially help South Africa transition away from coal and assist the country with its ongoing crisis. I am Busisipho Siyobi, and to discuss the potential of nuclear technology with me is Leleti Maluleke, fellow researcher here at GGA. Leleti, you recently produced a piece looking at small modular reactors and how they could be a potential for our energy crisis. Can you please just walk us through how are they different from nuclear plants, for instance?
Nuclear energy is a very controversial topic because of the risks associated with this. The Fukushima and the Chernobyl incidents are one of the greatest examples of what a nuclear explosive can lead to. SMRs have considered the safety and security requirements of explosives and meltdowns, and they address both vulnerabilities to sabotage and to natural hazards. So they are much safer than traditional power plants in that comparison.
So in that case, what makes small modular reactors better than nuclear plants?
Right now, there's a whole topic or discussion happening around the decommissioning of Quebec due because of its aging nature, and also the technology that it is using is outdated. However, with SMRs, there's new technologies and advancements that are being currently made. They are also a lot cost effective compared to our traditional power plants. They also do not require a lot of construction time. So in terms of length, a traditional power plant can take 20 years, if I can put it that way, whereas with SMRs, the maximum they can take is about 5 years. So that comparison in terms of construction time as well as cost-wise, SMRs are a better option.
Some energy experts have said that the push for nuclear power could be channeled towards renewable energy. So what then makes the SMRs a better solution for our energy crisis?
We need to take into account that we are transitioning towards a green economy. So renewable energy such as solar and wind, which South Africa also has a potential of, needs to be enhanced. But along enhancing these renewables, we need to take into account nuclear energy. So there needs to be a rather hybrid mix or an energy mix of both nuclear and renewable energy that will both be adequately provided for the citizens.
So does Eskom have a place in the production and implementation of SMRs?
We need to take into account that Eskom does operate and own Quebec, which is a nuclear reactor. So the knowledge, the experience, the expertise that Eskom has needs to now be transformed or transferred to these SMRs. We also need to take into account that Eskom is part of the World Association of Nuclear Operators. So this puts South Africa actually at a good stage of moving towards SMRs because we are better equipped with nuclear and the experience that we have. We cannot take away the role that Eskom can play in SMRs because they are the leading electricity supplier in South Africa. However, at the same time, we cannot overrule the role that the private sector can play. The private sector can play a huge role in financing these SMRs and also looking at the research that can be made to advance these SMRs.
And I think we're all familiar that South Africa, particularly the mining industry, employs quite a number of people. I think as it stands, it's about 450,000 people. So how would we ensure that this transition for people working in the coal mine are not affected?
We're very vulnerable to whether transitioning or not. If we decide to transition, we are vulnerable to the physical risk and the operational risk. If we do not transition, we're still vulnerable to climate change. What we need to take into account is that these sectors that will be moving away from need to equip their workers with green skills that will be transferable to a green economy. So what we need to start thinking about is how we address the situation of people losing jobs. Government needs to come into play. The private sector needs to come into play. Government needs to address and equip these people with skills that will be transferable. So we need government to be effective in in order for us to achieve a just transition.
Corruption is one of the greatest challenges in our government. So in your view, how do we ensure that the finances mobilized for the green economy do not fall into the hands of the corrupt officials. So in other words, how do we combat any potential corruption in this transition to a low green economy?
One thing that we have learned from COVID financing is that if there's no accountability and transparency of finances, then a lot of the corrupt elites will be able to get their hands on these finances. And there needs to be transparency within the government and within the private sector. The benefit of government and private sector working together is that there is a more accountable and a more transparent flow of finance.
Knowing that nuclear waste is an issue, how can these small modular reactors be formed in a clean and environmentally friendly way?
South Africa is heavily reliant on coal, so we need to start thinking about ways on how we move away from coal. SMRs, unlike coal, they do not produce any carbon emissions, and they don't have as much nuclear waste as compared to a traditional power plant. At the same time, using SMRs will also address the energy crisis that we have, which is load shedding and blackouts. So this is a bonus in terms of environmental concerns as well as the energy crisis that we're currently facing.
Thank you very much, Leleti, for sharing such great insights on the topic. Nuclear energy may just be part of the solution to South Africa's energy crisis. However, public support for such an initiative will depend on guarantees given that citizens will be safe and that the environment will not suffer as a result. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit us at gga.org for more in-depth discussions on policy matters in Africa.